Hello again. So we are meeting together to talk about HR with our great guest, Armin Trost, the author of Human Resources Strategies. And today we would like to talk about social dynamics. For some people, it might be quite mysterious concept. For a person working in HR, like me or Kasia, and of course Armin was also practitioner in terms of corporate environment, and now he is a consultant and academic. The social dynamics is something which needs attention. Why? Because the way how I understand it, especially relying on your book, is that we deal with something which is not well defined, but it contains a lot about emotions, about human interactions. So I would like to ask you to bring this concept to our attention and explain how you understand it.
Okay, social dynamic. Social dynamic that touches the human behavior eventually. So it's about the complexity of human beings also. It's about expectation, it's about worries, it's about fears, it's about happiness, it's about emotion, it's about values, it's about being appreciated in all the things. And whatever you do in HR will touch the human beings as a whole. Yeah. And it's not just a human being, an employee, basically. Yeah. Is not just an object with competencies and some motivation, but it's a human being that has relation to others, expectations, worries, and all the like, as I just mentioned. And when we do something in HR, we sometimes have the naive assumption that when we do something, people will act like this or this or this, right? And once we have implemented any kind of concept, yeah, we very often realize that the people don't. they, they show resistance, or they misuse a concept, or they bypass a tool, or whatever. And then sometimes we as practitioners, we look at this situation and think, oh, what happened there? So social dynamic really is to take into consideration human behavior as a whole, not only based on an individual, but also as social beings. When we take into this all this into consideration, that touches social dynamics.
I have a question. Is there any tool to measure the level of social dynamics?
Oh yeah. There is no.
So we should mostly rely on the perception of an HR plan, project, concept from the perspective of, let's say, psychology of the human being. Am I right?
Yeah. It's pretty much based on experience. I mean, there are things in HR where we can assume that the things are very predictable that we are doing. Yeah, I mean, the classic example is payroll. You do not talk about reward systems. That leads to much social dynamic. But payroll, I mean, that's an administrative process, paying the people on time with a clear structure. Nobody will worry. Nobody will have any fears or hopes. They just do it, and then it's okay, fine, nice. Yeah, right. So that's
And then, like you mentioned in your book, like introducing, let's say, high social dynamic situations, like you mentioned in your book, introducing co-educational toilets, like creation of events that touch on diversity and inclusion might have different, let's say, level of social dynamics. Yes.
Yeah, sometimes we underestimate what things we do, how things we do affect the people. Yeah. I mean, there's this golden rule in HR: never change the company car policy. I'm not sure whether this is a German thing, but I can tell you,
It's not
if you change
German.
something like this,
It's not only German.
Be prepared, because the people will react in a way you will never expect. Yeah. So sometimes you are right. Sometimes are the little things that touches the people's emotion in their way of being appreciated or not. So yeah, sometimes it's the small things, but sometimes also the bigger things. To give you an example, okay. Let's look at talent management, for instance. Yeah, talent management. When we look at talent management, how many companies are doing it, there is one part of it where supervisors, line managers have the responsibility to nominate talented employees, right? So they have to look into their teams, the team of 20, and they have to think of, okay, among these 20 people, who is the most talented employee in this team, right? And then the manager is asked to nominate this person so that this particular employee will enter a talent pool. And then from there, this employee will develop straight, right, for the upcoming years. Okay, nice idea. Okay, everybody understands it. Cool. Now you do something like this. You implement this kind of talent identification process, and you realize that managers don't nominate the best people.
This is a great example, you know.
Yeah, sorry, Lucas. Yeah.
I'm just saying that it's a great example, especially when you go deeper into talent management, the process which you are just describing, this nomination, and very often there is this 9-box tool which says about potential and performance. Exactly. Performance is transparently set to the employee as a judgment. What about potential? And when you have this combination, I suppose this creates this problematic situation, right?
Well, this is one thing. I mean, as you say, performance is something that relates to the past, something that you might be able to measure, right? And that's not always so easy, but okay, it's something that is there, right? But potential is something about the future. So it's very vague. You make a prediction about the future development of a person. It's very, very difficult for somebody who is not educated in something like this. So you have room for interpretation. So whenever you have room for interpretation, you act in a way so that you gain most benefit of it. So let's assume you are a line manager and you have an employee who is really talented. You feel that, yes, this person has much potential. Once I nominate this person and I put this in this 9-box, high potential, high performance, I'm probably going to lose this person, right? We'll be promoted, we'll enter some development programs, a lot of time will be off somewhere on some development programs doing an MBA or something. So basically, I'm going to lose this person. And this is something I don't want. So yeah, it's to me as a line manager, it's absolutely beneficial to hide this person in my team, right? So I'm better off when I'm hiding this person and keeping it. It's my best horse, so to speak. I keep it in my, and this is something that we very often do not think of. That's a very simple example. We say, theoretically, we say, look, here's the 9-box. Here, nominate people with most performance and most potential, put a name there, nominate the person, then we develop this person. Nice. And then, this social dynamic comes into play. That some people have different interests. Some expect some worries. What will happen when I do this? So, and this is very hard to predict sometimes. Very hard to predict. And this is just a little example. I mean, there are many out there, right?
There are plenty, and I think you could maybe use the other one replying to this question, because especially in this one which you describe, you put yourself for a moment in a position of line manager, and in general, when you say about social dynamic, you say that if the technical complexity of the topic is not too high, you would leave this management of social dynamics or situation related to it with line manager. So
Yeah.
it's quite opposite to what HR person thinks, because HR person often thinks, I am usually somehow related to psychology, at least I read something, so I should be the guy who will always solve this kind of psychological things or sociological. So you have different approach to it. Please explain it.
Yeah. I know that in HR, we very often have people who are psychologically educated. Yeah. I was one example. I'm a psychologist as well, and I work in HR. And yes, psychology helps. It can help, but the thing is that what we learn in psychology, what we study in psychology, rarely is enough to predict behavior of people which are in another department somewhere else. So it's and I think if you want to predict, or let's say if you want to understand the behavior and the reaction of line managers, why not talking to them? Why not involving them? Or maybe give them responsibility and say, you want a solution, so I help you to develop something that helps you, right? So there is this, I really believe in the hypothesis that the higher the social dynamic is that you can expect, yeah, the more you should involve those people who are affected by what you want to do, right? It's that's the idea. And sometimes even when it's about very simple things, where you do not need a lot of technical understanding, where you don't need to be an educated HR professional, just leave these things to the business line. Yes, of course, I would say so. And we see this in many occasions, really. I give you one example. For instance, when we talk about talent acquisition, yeah, attracting and approaching talented, well-educated, motivated people in the labor market. In talent acquisition, we really know the rule that elephants should hire elephants. So meaning that if you want to hire an elephant, you better be an elephant. So if you want to hire software developers, let the software developers do this, because they are closer to these people and they better talk their language and they better know how they behave, and you know better how they might be attracted. And so hey, finding and approaching software developers via certain forums or platforms, that's easy. Really, it's easy. So let the line do that thing. Really, I mean, that's my belief. And maybe they need some help, they need some advice, but give them responsibility, guide them a little bit, but let them do the work. I really would say so. Yeah, for those things where it's easy, where it's rather simple, really.
As a acquisition specialist, I can relate to that, especially in the area of IT. But I wanted to ask a question, because you mentioned that most, let's say, great part of HR specialists come from the psychological background. Yes, they have they graduated from psychology, or they graduated psychology related matters. But how to talk social dynamics to the line manager who has different background than psychology? So how to tell them that this is something that works in the organization and they should put, let's say, great attention to that? How to make sure that what they're doing is correct or good?
I don't think that the line managers with whom you work need to have a psychological background. It's when you let's say you want to implement, you want to work on a new let's say compensation system. Let's have something that is really, I mean, compensation system that leads really to reactions. You can assume this to reaction that is hardly predictable. We know that we have some psychological knowledge about the effects of variable pay. We know this. Yeah, we know that when you pay for performance, for instance, or contingent reward, as we sometimes name it, that in situations where the people have repetitive tasks, this could really work, and this can really increase performance. But in those tasks where the people are faced with uncertain tasks, where they have to be creative, where they have to think, variable pay for performance, contingent reward can kill motivation. This is a psychological insight. This is a psychological insight that line managers typically don't have, right? That I would share with you. So now, when I want to implement something like a compensation system, something like variable pay, what I would definitely do is I would talk to the people who might be affected and talk to them. Okay, what do you think? What will happen when we do this? Yeah, I would do a pre-mortem analysis. I would say, why will this not work? Yeah. What is so talk. Yeah, it's like in a therapy. The patient must not have a psychological understanding, but you ask the right question and you listen. Okay, what will happen when we do this? And you work with the people together, and then sometimes you're gonna feel it. You feel there's something wrong with that idea. I don't know why. You have to dig deeper, and so on. And this is always better than just sitting in a workshop room somewhere in a hotel, somewhere on the outside, and thinking about the system and thinking that will make it. No, it will not. So that's why I say always better talking with and to those who might be affected by the concept you have in mind.
Thank you very much. And that was all about social dynamics for now.
Okay.
And I'm happy to have more to come. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Lucas. Thank you, Kasia.